having an excellent breakfast out there this morning, so please help yourself and enjoy it. I'd also like to thank you all for coming on this nice balmy morning here in Newport, Vermont. I'd also like to thank our scheduled legislators, who are Senator Russ Ingalls, Representative Woody Page, and Representative Ken Wells here. I'd also like to thank the Eastside for getting up this morning and preparing this breakfast for us. I'd also like to thank members of the media who are here to help broadcast this, and NEK-TV for putting it on YouTube. You'll be able to watch this on YouTube after the event. Before we get into the legislators, I'd like to give Pasumsic Bank the opportunity to just tell a little about their sponsors and to thank them for the breakfast here today.
Well, thank you, Dan. And the one entity you didn't thank was the Chamber. So thank you to the Chamber for sponsoring these breakfasts. It is so important to be able to be informed and know what's happening right from the legislators themselves. So we really appreciate that. Pasumsic Bank is a local community bank. We're so honored to be able to sponsor this breakfast. We really do believe that it's important for everyone to have a voice in the community and to help build the economy of the local community. So thank you to the legislators for their work in helping advocate for us in Montpelier. That's really all we have. Appreciate it.
So just a reminder, the format again will be the legislators will all be given a chance to speak and inform us as what's going on in the state legislature. And then after they're all done, we'll open the floor to questions. You'll come up here when we pick you to ask a question, state your name, the town you're from. You are allowed to say 1 or 2 sentences to lay the groundwork to your question. And then please, just like Jeopardy, put it in the form of a question. So the first up to speak will be Senator Russ Ingalls.
I want to echo, again, I want to thank the Chamber. I want to thank the East Side. I want to thank Pasumsic Bank as being a community partner. I'm going to put a little plug in. Pasumsic Bank and Green Mountain Broadcasters, something that I know a little bit about, are doing a food drive towards the end of February. Our goal is to raise 10 tons of food. Pasumsic Bank quickly jumped on board with that, and we're very proud to be partnered with them. We're going to have it in their parking lot off to the side. Plenty of room to do that. So for anybody who would like to come and attend and contribute to help the kingdom, we'd be very happy to have you. We certainly know that there's a need. I want to spend some time just talking about not really what's not going on, but what is going on in Montpelier, all local stuff. I'm not at liberty to really get into it because I don't even know all the details, but it looks like that we are fleshing out a deal to make the pit, the hole, the empty space, whatever you want to call it, in downtown Newport. It looks like that there's a framework of a deal that might happen with that. I can't tell you what I don't know, and I can't really tell you what I do know, other than the fact that in one of the committees that I'm in, which is institutions, we're starting to bank some monies for a new courthouse. So it's been 5 years that we've kind of slow played that. Now we're starting to get very, very serious about putting in a new courthouse, and we'll see if that is in the plans of what's going on with the piece of groundwork that we have in Newport. I also want to, while we're on courthouses, we have something that kind of flew under the radar a little bit. I represent Essex County as well, all of Essex County. There's a new courthouse going on up there. Pretty proud of that one. We are looking to spend under $5 million for a brand new courthouse that will bring that into modern times for the next 40 years. which is not a lot of money as far as in Montpelier, and especially on courthouses. We have roofs that we put on some of the courthouses in the lower parts of the state that don't cost as much as that. So that is, they were ready to start building this late summer. They ran into a water issue where there wasn't enough water pressure to keep the sprinkler systems going, or in case there was a fire with what they had for a water supply. So they're putting in a water containment system should there be need for sprinklers. So they had to come back and ask for a little bit more money. But by this time next year, that courthouse will be modern for the next 40 or 50 years. I also want to spend and thank a little bit of what Newport's doing in themselves. In a community, you can sit and you can wish and you can have aspirations and you can have dreams and you can have whatever you want, conversations and meetings and talks and all of that. And I don't know if even Newport knows what they're going to be able to accomplish, but at least they're trying to accomplish. And they're moving forward on a lot of stuff. And I think that there's going to be some things that come before the voters that again, when it's all said and done, I think they were talking about TIF districts and all kinds of different exciting things to move Newport forward. I also want to thank again Doug Spates. I know Doug doesn't believe or whatever Doug believes, but Doug is a very unassuming man, and he's a call of action. You always know one thing. You're going to see Doug Spates involved if it's a worthy project. And thank you, Doug, for all that you do. Also, the North Country Hospital, Chris Johansson's here. Thank you for all what you guys do with the community as well. I chair Senate Agriculture in the Senate. Agriculture in the state of Vermont does $9.4 billion worth of economic good for the state. Anywhere from somebody baking 12 loaves of bread, trying to make a living doing that, to large farm operations. And we're doing a lot. We had a disastrous decision by the Supreme Court, and I'm not saying that the Supreme Court was all wrong with the decision that they made, but they basically said that farmers would have to comply with local zoning when it has been for 200 years that farming was exempt. We're working on some language with that and working with the Vermont City Leagues and Towns and some other stakeholders group, Farm Bureau, and a lot of the farm groups to minimize the harm of that language. And to the Supreme Court's credit, they didn't say that, and we did pass. I did pass last year a right to farm bill in the state of Vermont to protect farmers for the right to farm. But the Supreme Court basically said, hey, listen, your language is a mess. You can't just assume that you can do this. So we're going to rule in this way, but gave us a path forward to make it so that people do have the right to farm within the communities, exempt from Act 250s. And so we're working on a lot of big language on that to get us right back on the right track. I'm working a lot on, I do believe that in renewable energy, anything that we can do to put more power to the grid, especially on our local communities, is great. But they're taking our great farm fields. Anything that's flat and beautiful and prime ag, and of course I don't blame them. They're easy to build on. There you go. There's this nice big flat field, but we can see the future of what is going to happen. You just go down in New Jersey and Massachusetts and Connecticut and lower parts of New York, lower parts of Vermont, lower parts of New Hampshire, and you can see what's going to happen. We are going to lose these fields, and we're going to lose them forever. And where the push is to grow our own food, take care of our own, stop importing all kinds of product from all over the world, and be able to do that. If we use those fields up, they're never coming back. We have 1.2 million acres of farmland. We burned up 41,000 acres of farmland last year. 41,000. Do the math. 20 years. You basically have taken all your farmland. So we're really starting to do a little bit of a push. It's got the environmental people a little bit anxious, and I don't blame them, but we're not there to hurt them because we do have plenty of land to site these housing. and renewable energies. It's called heifer pasture, as everybody around here is aware. Farms used to have lots of heifer pasture that wasn't prime ag land, but it was good enough to graze cattle on. All we're asking for them is to take a look at that land first before they look at our prime ag land. And it does two things. It preserves our prime ag land, and then it takes land that has historically been with farmers not really prime stuff, and you could sell it pennies on the dollar if you choose to sell it. Makes that land a little bit more popular and a little bit more valuable to the farmers. We're working on a lot of stuff to promote farming. We know that if you want to grow the ag business in the state of Vermont, not everybody starts out as a large farm operation. We do a lot for people to start out small. We do everything we can do to protect them. And the reason why we do that is because when you look at somebody like Pete's Greens, who used to start Pete's Greens, one of the largest organic vegetable producers in New England, and he started at the end of his driveway selling vegetables out of his family garden. And so you can get there with some support with that. So other than that, just moving on to a little bit of what the state is, what has been the real big talks. We have been talking for a long time about affordability, public safety, education, housing. We're trying to get there. We're trying to get there. The affordability issue is still going to be a real huge problem. For those that haven't heard me say it, and I'm surprised that you haven't because I've said it a lot, we are $1.9 billion more than what we should be spending. $1.9 billion more than what we should be spending in this state right now when you go back to the COVID years, adjust for inflation, and move us ahead. And why are we in that? Why are we there right now? Is because when we had $14 billion from the federal government that we squandered, there's nothing left. If you were to go and say, what did you do with that $14 billion? And I want you to pile it on that table right there. What did you do? There would be nothing piled on that table. There's nothing that you can look at and say, yeah, we did a good job with that. But what we have done is created a lot of programs and a lot of people that were sold to us with the promise that once the money was gone, that it would all go away, and it hasn't. They're still trying to fund that $1.9 billion. But even with all of that, and I will say it is very tight down there. The state, I don't want to say flat ass broke, but the state doesn't have enough money for its obligations to where it is, so it's already starting to cannibalize where it's at. Ken, in transportation, he already knows that they've got a budget shortfall. We've known it for 2 years that they were going to get in that. Institutions in the committee that I was in, when I chaired it, we had $203 million. We're down to $100 million. That means all the state buildings, all the maintenance, all of that stuff are going to go into a problem. So we are, instead of cutting spending, there are just grand plans over and over and over and over again to raise more revenue. We've already seen a 12% tax increase coming for our schools. We can't do that. So we have that. Education is plodding forward. I did vote no on the act that we had before, but I do recognize that there's things that we need to do. Again, we just need to make education less expensive. And that doesn't mean by getting rid of a lot of stuff. I am somebody that actually truly believes that the only way, when you represent the poorest of the poor, that the only way to get out of that is that you educate your people better, your kids better than anyone else, and give them opportunity. And I strongly believe that the kids at Lake Region and North Country and Canaan deserve the same education chances that they have everywhere else in the state, namely Chittenden County. Other than that, I know that we have a short list of speakers, but I'll leave some room for questions. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Ingalls. Our next speaker will be Representative Woody Page.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you to the sponsors for today's breakfast. What I thought I would do is I would cover some of the things that have occurred since the last time we met, such as our budget adjustment, the governor's budget, my Ways and Means Committee, and the State of the State address from the governor as well. Our budget adjustment, or what is commonly referred to as House Bill H790, this is the appropriations of funds to get the state government through the fiscal year 2026, which ends in June, the end of June. The adjustment that we made was $80.6 million increase from the original fiscal year 26 budget that passed. And Vermont's total appropriations is now $9.1 billion for fiscal year 26. It's $300 million more than the 2025 budget. In the governor's budget for 2027, an effort was made to keep as much money available for property tax relief. That relief will be $105 million. That will be used to attempt to fix some of the issues related to education and to try to keep our property tax bills down. Last year, we spent $77 million, and this year there'll be it would have been a 12% increase if the governor had not set aside that $105 million. A couple of other things about the governor's budget. Education, which was mentioned by the senator, it's currently budgeted at $2.56 billion. That's 33% of the budget. Transportation, which Ken will get into, it's $341 million. That's only 9% of the budget, and there's some issues which, again, Ken will talk about. Our total human services is $6.05 billion. That's 38% of the budget. Governor's State of the Union address was not surprising. It focused on education. Governor ties the issue related to education to other issues. If we don't do something about education, he feels that it has a major effect upon our affordability to live in Vermont, our housing crisis, our health care, human services. All these things are tied together. It was also explained in his speech that the education spending has risen from what was $1.6 billion 10 years ago to $2.5 billion today, which, as everyone knows, it's increasing our tax rates to double digits. And to be fair, you know, our schools are trying to make some cuts, but they can only do so much. One of the ideas with Act 73, which is education reform, is to reduce the number of supervisory districts that we have. We have currently 119, and just recently the Vermont House Education Committee has put forward an idea to cut that down to 27. And they'll be increasing the number of students that they'll be supervising in those districts if this goes through from 2,000 to 4,000. Within our Ways and Means Committee, we're taking our approach to the issues that we're dealing with from the governor, and we're focusing on education. We're looking at reducing our school taxes by the end of the session. I think everybody down there is laser focused on education, and our committee is doing that as well. We're looking at different categories of properties, homestead versus non-homestead, residential versus non-residential. We're reviewing the education spending, property valuations. We're looking at pre-kindergarten, their populations and costs. We're receiving testimony from nonprofits such as Building Bright Futures, as well as from various state agencies such as Children and Families, the Education Department. We're also looking at our federal income taxes and how Vermont aligns with their taxes with the federal income taxes, which is H.R. 1. It's the big, bright, beautiful bill that you've heard from. We're currently looking to see if we should be decoupling the Vermont taxes from the federal taxes. So there's a lot that we're looking at regarding schools. Distances from schools, the consolidation of schools, those types of things. And then finally, what I thought I would do is just talk a little bit about a couple of bills that I've sponsored along with Representative Labor. The first one is H-103. That bill I introduced last year. It's related to veterans. There's a lot of money out there for veterans that are disabled, that during their service, many are, 1 or 2 term service members that, when their term came up, they just wanted to, get out of the military and go home or get a job and do their own thing. They didn't think about some of those benefits that they might be eligible for. And later on, they find that they're ill, and their illness is from, say, burn pits, or in one of my friend's cases, he served in Vietnam, and he served around Agent Orange and had Parkinson's disease. So there's a lot of folks out there that try to scam these veterans by promising them the world, that they'll get certain benefits, and this bill tries to prevent and tries to protect those veterans from some of these scams that are out there, to promising that they'll get them benefits for X amount of dollars. So that's one issue that I'm dealing with. H652 here again is with Representative Labor, and that prohibits the discharge of leachate to a wastewater treatment facility into the watershed of Lake Memphremagog for discharge. You may remember that Newport for some time did take the leachate from our landfill, and we put it through our sewage system here in Newport. And, financially, we received some funds for that. This bill prevents us from taking that leachate into the future or having it dumped into our watershed, no matter whether it's been processed or not. So those are some of the things that I've been doing, and I got to get off stage. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Page. That was the thumbs up for doing a great job. That was, there's only... but the next speaker up today will be Representative Ken Wells.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thanks to Passumpsic Savings Bank for getting us rolling here, and I want to personally thank Ellen Stanley for cooking all this chow. Well done, Ellen, right there. I am on the transportation agency down there in Montpelier. We have the third most money in the state. We're proposing $934 million for our next budget. We have a shortfall of about $30 million, and we need more than that, and it doesn't go as far as you think. I've got a breakdown of where some of that money goes, because that's what everybody asks. Hey, that's almost $1 billion. Where does that money go? Well, here's where some of the big items go. $148 million to pave our highways and our roadways. $136 million to repair the thousands of bridges and crossways in the Green Mountain State. $112 million to ensure you have all that other maintenance covered throughout the state over the course of the year. We also, it's not just roads and highways, we also take care of aviation. We give them $12 million. We just built a $2 million building at the Coventry Airport, which I don't know if you've been up there lately, so that was a big improvement for them, and we've got some other plans for them down the road too. We also control railroads, so we give them $60 to $70 million, and they're in the process now of buying new train sets, That isn't what your kids play in the living room. That's basically, though, an engine or two and trailing cars. And they're buying, in the United States, 83 of those sets. So within the next 3 years, you'll see a complete reforming of Amtrak travel. Better tracks, better machinery. There'll be a combination of diesel and electric, and those are coming our way too. Bike paths, stuff like that. Like we have some beautiful ones here, over here, across the lake. We're going to put $24 million into maintaining those in the state and creating others. $26 million goes to administration. Now that sounds like an incredible amount of money, but we have one of the biggest groups and staffs in the state. We have 1,200 plus employees. And so that is a big payroll option too. Some of the projects that we plan on completing over the next year, 151 miles of paving. So you can do the math there pretty simply. It's about $1 million to pave 1 mile of roadway. Sounds crazy? That's what it costs. We've got 34 bridges, bike paths, and crossways that are, the state has decided through inspection that they either need to be upgraded or replaced completely. There's 21 bridges that need to be repaired totally, and that'll be done in the next year. And we can't get too far behind any of these things because by the time you get to 2030, then you got half of them in disrepair. So we have to stay on them all the time. There's 55 highway short sections like Barton to Hardwick. They went in and did some patch jobs last year. This year, they'll do segments of miles of traffic area that's really busy down there, and we'll take care of that too. And unlike many committees here, and the senator knows a lot more about this than I do, Department of Transportation not only sets policy, they pay for the projects as well. That's odd, is it not, my senator here? And so that's unusual. So a lot of responsibility right there, and that's why we got 1,200 employees. A typical year, and you always would hear the jokes, these guys, one guy in the hole and the other guy's watching him, and what sleeps 6 people, oh, it's an orange V-Trans truck, but you know what? They actually are humping out there. I'll give you an example of what they did last year. Over the course of it, they cut down 23,000 trees from the top of the state to the bottom of it. Sounds amazing here. They washed over 1,060 bridges because that's a great way to keep the rust off them and stuff extra. And underneath them, they paint them and stuff like this too, as far as that goes. They answered 41,000 hours of emergency calls, crashes, floods, storms, snow, etc. We plow 1.5 million miles of snow in the state of Vermont every year. Unfortunately, I think we're all in agreement we've got a hell of a winter going this year. We've already plowed 1.2 million miles. And so we're way over that, and we're going to be having to worry about money for that because here we are in early February. These are numbers we usually have by, March 30th. And so we're about 6 weeks behind on that end too. We've had so much snow, and you just take a look out the window. Take a look at your thermometer this morning. I had 26 below in Brownington, so it's icy out there. Yeah, without the wind, that's right. And we mowed, the mowing series that go on in the interstates, that's 14,000 acres. It's mowed twice a year. They only mow about a third of it because they're trying a program here where they're putting in more flowers and stuff. You may have seen an example of it. If you go down to Lindenville, you have all those yellow and black flowers through there. That's part of that project right there. That's only about $200,000 though. That's actually a cheap one in this day and age. And so basically that's where a lot of it goes. We've had some important bills come up. One that was, our committee is pretty balanced. You have a lot of committees that are 7-4 Dems over Republicans. Transportation, we've got 5 Democrats, 1 progressive, and 5 Republicans. We got balance. And we don't fight about much except these junky 18-wheel electric trucks. We don't argue about much else. We don't argue about this bill that came across too. It's a great idea. We have some beautiful bridges, the covered bridges. We have them in this area. We have them all over the state. The model for protecting these bridges that are constantly getting nailed is in Lindenville. When you go over the Miller Run, you take the side trip over to Linden Institute, And what they did was they got the kids at LI. That's something probably North Country could do too, because they get a great career center. And the state gave them $70,000 worth of steel, and they made that girder on both ends of it. And it has got hit a few times, but it protects the bridge. And we're going to be willing, even though money's tight, as the senator said, and he's right, we're going to put money into that project because we want to protect those bridges. Those are a symbol of Vermont, something we're all very proud of. We have some great ones around here. We're going to protect them, and that's going to come out of our committee 11-0. There'll be no argument on that, too. That money will go towards them as far as that goes. One other stat here that always gets me, because you think about what litter is. You know, you throw out a wrapper. I don't personally. I'm sure none of you do either. But there is litter out on the roads. They pick up 440 tons of litter a year. It doesn't seem possible, but they pick up that much garbage over the year. So those guys, you may catch them once in a while while they're having an extra coffee break, but they're busting their ass. They really are out there. And during the winter, we've got 255 of those monster trucks you guys probably saw in Barton a few weeks ago. We got one buckled. Guy came up behind it. I don't know where he was from. He couldn't speak English, but he rammed him in the ass, and he knocked off one of our trucks. And those trucks weigh 25 tons, so you got to take a hell of a wallop right there. That was at the Barton exit. It's too bad for the guy driving because he was only like 150 yards from where he parks it. But we've got 255 of those monsters on the road all the time, and we've got 150 pickups with plows too. So when snow hits and New England comes on and pounds us in the winter, we got the manpower, and we got your tax dollars at work clearing these things here. I think that's pretty much it on transportation. We also control DMV, and last year we went through a massive upgrade of computer software and appointments and stuff, and I don't know if any of you have registered your car or anything, but it's a lot easier now. And I will say this, it was $60 million almost when we were done, and that's from Bennington to Newport. But it came in on budget, and it came in on time. Two things you rarely see these days. So we'll give ourselves a pat on the back for that. And basically, just some other stats over the course of the year. Except for the National State Forest Agency, the Department of Transportation owns the most land in the state of Vermont. So it's a pretty vast setup there. It was my second choice when I went down there. I thought I wanted to be on Ways and Means. Now, after Woody's explained to me what that actually was, I'm glad I'm on transportation. So that's worked out well. Basically, I think that's it as far as transportation goes, and I'll be glad to answer questions on that later in the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Wells. And for anyone who came in late, just remember Passumpsic has sponsored this lovely breakfast. They always get the opportunity to ask the first question to the representatives if they'd like to. And just a reminder, the questions also are for state issues. We don't address the national political issues here. And you get a few more than a couple sentences for groundwork. You can ask an in-depth question since you sponsored the breakfast. But come on up, and thank you.
Those of you who know me, I'm a bullet point kind of girl, not a long speech kind of girl. So for the representatives, housing has been a huge issue in this community. It's something that we're talking about almost every day here in Newport. Can you speak to what pieces of legislation you're excited about for building housing, helping ease the housing crisis here in Newport?
Thank you. Senator Ingalls.
Thank you for the question. So housing is very, very big. And I want to stay as positive about that as I can. So you have to work, in Montpelier, you have to work around the framework of what's what you're being asked to do and where the money is. And there is just a big, big push not to allow housing in rural areas. It just is. It goes on and on and on. The permits, the restrictions. There's the governor was able to do an executive order to repeal some of the standards of what they wanted new housing to be. And it actually knocked off $17,000 worth of just a regular house being built by going back to the standards of just a few years ago. So that's very, very important. And it goes to show you that really what we need to do is we need to protect the environment, but we need to get back into reasonableness of building homes and allowing people to do that. The private sector will lead the way into that if they're allowed to do it. But right now, the regulations are just unbelievable. But there are millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. I just went by Doug's Places the other day, actually, to buy a couple of the buildings. I actually went up that street and just to look at what he had built there. And that's just kind of the idea of what it is. Let somebody like Doug or anybody else, developers, to go out there and build these homes, get rid of some of the regulations. But there are millions and millions and millions of dollars being pumped into the to various agencies. The Vermont Conservation Housing Board just did a great project up to Sacred Heart High School and Newport Center. Two blighted buildings that, to be fair, I marched through, in my other daytime profession, I marched through 4 different buyers through the old Sacred Heart High School and tried to figure out how could we turn this into housing. And they just couldn't get it to turn. The numbers did not work. Well, the state has a little bit more money, and now we have some beautiful apartments going on up there in a beautiful area. They have 7-8 acres up there, great views of the lake. And from what I'm understanding, it's affordable housing, which I don't. Everybody says, oh, affordable housing, we just need housing. We need housing. We just need to be able to, the advantages of people to go. So, it is, so we're spending a lot of money. Our VCHB right now is asking for $37 million to put into housing projects. What we're finding out is that when those units used to be $500,000 a unit. Those prices are starting to come down now. We're starting to get a little bit better at that. But we need to. We have a housing emergency. I mean, anywhere where you go, you talk with people. We have 30 to 40,000 units that should be built by 2030. It isn't going to happen. It just isn't going to happen. But that doesn't mean that you don't keep on pushing for it and keeping on finding ways. But one of the ways that it really would help there is to be mindful of regulations that sound really, really less harmful, but just add cost and cost and cost to putting up a structure. We have a rule now that in these rural areas, if you buy a piece of land, 10 acres, and instead of building it down on the lower part of the land in itself, and you had to put a driveway, and if that driveway goes over 800 feet long, you have to go through an Act 250 permit. You as a private individual have to go through an Act 250 permit. And it's not an abbreviated permit. It's just the same process as if you were putting in a shopping mall on that land. That just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. So, yes, housing is very, very important. You folks need to keep the pressure on it. You need to keep on demanding that we have more housing. Just be aware that the way that we get there is not through state government, but through private enterprise. And we need to make sure that we allow developers the chance to be able to make the project work. They need to go to the Passumpsic Bank. They need to, here's my portfolio. Here's my project. Here's what I'm going to build. Here's what I'm going to rent it. Here's my return. And as of right now, it's very, very, very hard. But keep the pressure on.
Thank you, Senator Ingalls. Next will be Representative Woody Page.
The senator is correct. Based upon our regulations, Act 250, we do make it very difficult for a developer like Doug or anyone else to build. How he built the apartment complex on West Main Street, I have no idea. It's a very nice facility, and from everything I've heard, everybody loves to be there. But we do make it very difficult with our regulations to get any sort of development done here in Vermont. I have here the 2027 budget summary from Governor's budget recommendation. You can look this up online if you wish. But the governor addresses what I just said. He says that we make it harder to build and restore homes. The cost of owning and renting is extremely high. We need to transform our regulatory process. He does say that for 2027, $4 million base general fund has been allocated for the Vermont Housing Improvement Program, and that brings affordable rental units to the market faster and more cost-effective than other programs. He also said that there were $800,000 one-time general fund for a manufactured home improvement and repair programs to help preserve and improve manufactured homes for families. As the senator said, we have Rural Edge, which seems to be doing a fantastic job at the former Sacred Heart High School program there. And I will also mention, if you're interested in housing, there is, I think I saw the mayor here, he can verify this. There is a program tonight at the high school regarding housing. I think it starts at 6 o'clock. So 6 till 7:30. That's nice, because I saw where it went till 9, and I was thinking that's a little late for me when I have to get up tomorrow morning. So I would recommend all of you to go and listen to what the individual, I think it's Mr. Chu, talking about, and his recommendation is that we need to really get on our housing issue and build thousands of homes. I think he says in the next few years we should be building something like 40,000 houses in Vermont. So anyways, it is an issue that we're all concerned about. As far as the House Housing Committee, I have not seen any bills come out of that committee, but I know that they're working on the issue.
Thank you, Representative Page. Representative Ken Wells.
Thank you, buddy. I'm just going to echo the senator primarily here. Obviously, the Act 250 needs a reload. It's hindering rural construction more than it is metro construction, and that process needs to be streamlined. The only other thing I'll add is I'm hoping programs will be a breakthrough for Vermont with the Community Housing Infrastructure Program, the CHIP program, which are going to need badly to fix this cavernous hole that's been there for a dozen years on Main Street.
Thank you, Representative Wells. The next question.
Stop laughing. I didn't even start talking yet. Adam Ortiz, please vote for me in November. I'll be as honest as you expect a politician to be. Anyway, I watched the YouTube videos of the Department of Transportation. They have under 200 views. I need help navigating the political process and bring that money this way. There's billions of dollars set aside to upgrade the air traffic control towers, but I don't have the authority or know how to bring that to our 7 airports. Again, with rural development for the housing, you're not doing housing if the sewer system can't handle it or the electrical grid isn't going to handle new houses. So that has to get addressed beforehand, and I also would like help navigating that to upgrade the current infrastructure that nobody even imagines or thinks about that's underneath the ground. Please. Thank you for your time.
That's quite a breadth of a question. Senator Ingalls? No? Oh, so it's not actually a question?
I need help bringing up the grants.
Okay, so you don't have a question then?
Well, how do I do it?
Okay, so Representative Page, how does he get help?
Well, I'm not in the Transportation Committee, but I will address the issue about infrastructure. You heard the senator talk about TIF districts, which we're looking at possibly in downtown Newport, but there's also a program called, I think it's the CHIP issue, and that is supposed to help with our infrastructure. It's not as extensive, I guess, as the TIF, from what I understand. And by the way, TIF is tax incentive financing. So anyways, we are trying to address infrastructure through our state government.
Representative Wells.
I can only touch on the air tower and stuff like that. As far as chasing down funds, I can easily dig that up later. We only really have one preeminent one. That's the one in Burlington, which actually controls Plattsburgh Airport as well. We have some smaller repeaters and stuff at other airports, but that's our primary one there. And I don't think that I've never heard that staffing in the state of Vermont is a factor. Obviously, we don't have the heavy loads that some other people do. That's more of a national effect. And we only control all the airports in Vermont except Leahy. And I believe Rutland has one as well. But I know Burlington's controls Plattsburgh, which is 45 miles away. And that would be our primary source right there as far as air control to your question.
The Department of Transportation, they have a grant to upgrade the air traffic control towers. That's what I was asking.
Okay, in Vermont?
Throughout the whole country.
Okay, yeah. All right, I can look that up. I have not heard that for Vermont. And I think what few we have are manned and up to date. They improved the one in Rutland regionally and within the last 2 years. And as far as the national cache, I'd have to look it up. Yeah.
Right. Next question. Well, woman in the back. Sorry, Pam.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Bennett. I live in Derby. One of the things I'm wondering if in the State House is the legislators looking at not taxing Social Security. We're one of, 8 states that tax Social Security, and I believe the people that do get Social Security, they've worked their entire lives. They should not be taxed on the money that they actually put aside. So I'm just wondering where that is in the legislature.
Thank you for the question. Senator Ingalls.
We fought for 8 years to not tax veterans' pensions. And along with that, we have included not taxing Social Security. I am one to believe that grandma needs her money more than the state does. Unfortunately, we do have a bill. We do have a bill. We have it both in the House and in the Senate, and we're trying to get that done. It's a big number that they're looking to plug the hole in case that they were to do that. But again, I don't care. I think if we're taxing Social Security, when you look in politics, you look at the disparities of what does it mean to the one person versus the government in itself. That $34 or whatever that tax might be per month that's coming out of that Social Security check makes a difference to whether that person eats, buys medicine, travels, does whatever, or heaven forbid, go to the movies. And the state, well, that $34 doesn't mean much. But so there is a big battle with that. We do have bills in there as of right now. They're not. I don't know where the progress is. We're trying to push them forward, but I don't think that they're being very in the majority that is there right now. I do not believe that they're being looked at. But I feel you. We should not be taxing people's Social Security at all.
Thank you, Senator Ingalls. Representative Page.
Well, I'll just say I am for not taxing Social Security. But what I see in Ways and Means is if we don't tax that money, where else are we going to get those funds? And that is an issue of finding the replacement funds in other areas. So that's just the way it is.
Thank you, Representative Page. Representative Wells.
I'll just add if that ever comes through. All right. I know you worked hard for this. I don't want Social Security taxed either. I'm getting Social Security checks. I don't want them taxed.
Thank you. Next question.
Pam Ladd's Newport. Thank you, Woody Page and Larry Labour, for the bill that you have tried to introduce on repeat to protect us and the lake from the landfill. However, the landfill also can discharge directly into the Black River, and I'd like to know, A, how you're going to monitor that, if that is what happens. And 2, the landfill is nearly at the end of its quote life. It is the only landfill in the state of Vermont. There is nothing else. What is the state going to do about that, and to do about it well in advance? Because if there isn't a lot of planning about where the next landfill goes, we're in deep trouble here. You've just expanded the landfill, the airport, which is fantastic, but planes are going to come in over that. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Senator Ingalls.
Thank you. I know that's been near and dear to your heart as far as the landfill up there, and I will echo with what you've said about the bill as far as not allowing leachate into the lake. If that passes, I will be in full support of that. I understand that it was a revenue driver for the city of Newport, and I sympathize with that. But I think we do enough. I think we do enough as far as to have that the only landfill in the state and a very large facility up there. I think we do our share of it, and to take that leachate, no matter how clean it is or whatever, I do believe that we have 2 obligations. One is it's an international body of water, and so we shouldn't be making all of that decision. The other is that I don't care how it has got down to overtime and overtime and overtime, whatever small percentage of what it is, you keep on doing the same thing, it becomes a bigger percentage when it's all said and done. So I don't believe that we should be doing the leachate and putting into Lake Memphremagog. As far as discharge into the Black River, you and I could go back and forth on that. I know you believe it's happening. They say it isn't. The state believes that it isn't, and it's being monitored as far as with that. As far as with the structure, as far as where are we going to site another landfill, well, we don't have anybody knocking on the door saying bring it into my community, which is troubling. It's also troubling that the landfill owns all the other additional land, which is probably more acres than what they're already sitting on around there. My guess would be, just a guess, that the landfill that's there will be there for a long time. Even more than what it is now. But that would be my guess. When you own all the land around there and there's no other projects around, there's no other communities raising their hand to say, bring it here. I think their permits now go for 20 more years. There should be some type of mechanism that other communities are asking to bring a landfill in. I don't see anybody again raising their hand. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Senator Ingalls. Representative Page.
Well, let me just say, I think in many ways, Casella Waste Management has been a good neighbor to us. You may disagree on some of the issues there, but I think they've been a good neighbor to the Newport area as well as the community. Should the state, and I think they follow the rules that are out there for them. Should the state increase some of those rules? Yes, I believe that they should. Now, if Larry Labor was here, he could tell you more about some of the environmental issues that they're dealing on. But you look out here, this body of water, it's a beautiful place. We depend upon the water. You know, it is a resource that we should protect, and I'm for that. But again, maybe some of our state regulations, and I do not like the state over-regulating, but in our case of the landfill, maybe the state should increase its regulations on the landfill. The state apparently also has been looking at other places for a landfill, but as everyone knows, not in my backyard. And they have not made any announcements where they're actually looking because they don't want to get communities upset and have them start organizing against having a landfill in their communities. I am fearful that the landfill will be here for some time to come, probably beyond my lifetime. So, anyways, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Representative Page. Representative Wells.
Thank you, Dan. You would think with that massive overhaul of garbage that's been brought here all over New England, Boston, all over Vermont, stuff like that, that it would indeed have to seep into the back area over there. But I've seen no concrete proof that it has until that comes up. I guess we got to take their word for it. But if somebody could show me different, I'd be glad to listen to it. One thing Woody hit on, that's a pet peeve with mine too. They talked about not just having all the garbage up here in northern Vermont. Now, the previous administrator of that facility up there, I did an interview with him 10 years ago when I was publisher of the Express. And he told me that, again, like Woody said, other communities don't want it there. But he told me that the dump in Moortown could be reopened in less than 6 months, but they don't want it there, which really kind of torques me.
Thank you, Representative Wells. Thanks.
Russ, I'm going to lower this for you and I. Or not. Or break it. It's a great start. Just a question or a comment. What the city does not need is another non-taxable piece of property. As a large taxpayer, I just find this really tough. So my question for you is, will the state pay a lump sum of money yearly in lieu of taxes? Secondly, did I hear you say that the state has a large shortfall in operations of leases? If that's the case, how can the state afford to run another new building?
Thank you that was Doug Spates, Newport, Vermont. Here, Russ Ingalls.
Thank you. So this building that sits on the waterfront right now, in lieu of taxes, they pay a lump sum, and it's supposed to equalize what that tax amount would be. And I don't know how close that is. I should know that, being a resident of Newport. But when that was put forward, they had to pay as if they were paying taxes. And I know that they do that amongst other areas. The state is able to pay their leases and to pay their things and all of that stuff, but all it does is cost money. I am very fearful. My druthers as far as with that hole that we have there would be that private enterprise would come in and they would grab that and they would build something that would firmly establish a credible tax base. It just hasn't happened. And it really, really hasn't. And as you are aware, the state has been looking to do something with the courthouse that's there. I would wish that they would have done something with the courthouse that was standing there and to combine it with the Superior Court as well and to make one structure there. Alan Franklin had a funny line to me that said, you know, it was very, very handy to have the court where it was, especially before the hole was there, because there was a lot of apartments there and they were in the shape of probably needing some upgrading, so the tenant base probably wasn't as good. And he used to joke, I used to just, you know, it was very handy when I was there because I used to be able to stick my head out the window and say, hey, come to court. And that isn't the way that it is. But yeah, I share concerns, Doug. I would rather have any time. I would rather make it so that private enterprise could be the rule of the day. I feel this a little bit as well, and it goes against a lot of what I believe because I am a private enterprise guy. I'm a business guy and all of that stuff. Sometimes you just can't fight City Hall when they have all the money. And if you have somebody who wants to do something and wants to help you to make something better, then eventually that tick-tock, and that dripping makes it so that you kind of go along with it a little bit. Again, I would prefer that it be private enterprise that would be in that downtown area, and I also would hope that if that's where the courthouse gets sited, that they don't take up all of the land, which again, and leave some space for private enterprise. But I do believe that it should be private enterprise. But I think it's time to do something different with what we have. I think. Rick's got a question.
Representative Page.
I've never called it a hole. I've always called it an opportunity waiting to happen. But that said, how long have we waited for an opportunity to happen here in Newport? It's probably been, 10 years now? And private investment, as much as I'd love to see, a developer come in and develop that property, it hasn't happened. So therefore, you're probably looking at the state stepping in and doing something with it, whether you like it or not. But I don't have any further information to share with you about what's going to happen there, but those are just some of my thoughts.
Thank you, Representative Page.
Nothing to add.
Okay. In the back.
Can I just jump in and ask for a courtesy to speak for a moment to this? It's on everybody's mind.
Well, the mayor has spoken, so, hey.
The mayor is the one that can put some light to this.
Yeah, well, I just want to say, first of all, that we're really fortunate that we have a group of legislators from the NEK who have been rock solid in trying to help Newport figure out how to move this forward. We've met with them all as a group just before Christmas. I'm in conversation with almost all of them individually on a regular basis, and I'm grateful for that because there's no way that Newport's going to solve the problem of what happens next with that property without having some kind of involvement from the state. That's my judgment after about a year of working on this problem. I will also say that there was a report last week that the receiver the way it was reported in numerous news outlets was incorrect. What it said, what the report said, was that there was a buyer on the line. That, to the best of my knowledge, and I'm in a position to know, that's not true. The receiver was simply putting out a report that I think he has to do on a regular basis that said, I've disposed of all the other properties and I intend to dispose of this one in the next 6 months. That is true. But we've been meeting with the receiver in person and by email and phone almost once a month since last July. And we are definitely in conversation about how to make sure that whatever happens next with that property serves the interests of the people of Newport. And we've had regular meetings now at the legislative level and with state staff from the government's secretary level down about how to work together to try and do this in a way that will really work for the community. I am not yet, nor is Senator Ingalls or anyone else, at liberty to share the details of that because it's highly sensitive and we don't know yet how it's all going to work itself out. But what I can tell you is that the receiver is motivated to do something. We have solid legislative support to try and make something happen. We have a community here that is committed to seeing something happen and a group of people on city council who really want to move this forward. The stars are aligned in a way that they have not been aligned in a very long time. So I just want to say we are working on it, and please, I'm asking in the media to help us not to ramp people up with the assumption that there's somebody out there about to buy it and change our destiny, because that's simply not true yet. And when it is true, when we have more to report, we've done everything we can here locally, and our legislators have done the same. I really appreciate Senator Ingalls bringing this up this morning, because what we're trying to say to everyone is we know how forefront this is for everyone, and we want to work together to make sure we're being as transparent as possible. And we'll continue to do that. So the last thing I'll say about that is, just because the question came up, the check we got from the state government this year for a pilot in lieu of taxes was $640,000. Which I'm not sure I could tell you exactly what the percentage is, but it's a lot more than half of what we would normally be getting on those properties. So that's primarily for the Hebert building, the waterfront, the state-owned parking lots, both down by the Hebert and also just below the municipal building on the lower level.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And
So my name is Ed Nilsson in Derby Line. So my wife and I moved here 3 years ago when our house was flooded as part of the Yellowstone floods in Montana. So we haven't been here more than 3 or 4 years. But we can only compare states. Vermont is high in property taxes, and the cost of living here is high. And we heard recently that Vermont is one of 5 states that are losing people, losing population. And what I'm wondering is what you in the state legislature are doing to attract people to not Montana, but to Vermont.
Thank you for the question. Senator Ingalls.
You're absolutely positively right. The state is expensive. It really, really is. We just lost 1,800 people. Instead of growing, we've lost 1,800 people. Rep. Nelson and I talked about that when somebody said, well, that's not a lot of people. Well, that's like losing Irisburg and Albany and 2 schools at that same time. So it is a lot of people. It's a ton of people. We need to make Vermont more affordable. We really, really do. Let's go on some programs that we have. We have $100 million a year that we spend to try to prop up daycares, try to prop them up. Well, before we did that, we had daycares that people were mainly happy with, but the legislator made a change that made it almost impossible for grandma on Maple Street to watch kids anymore. And instantly we lost 80% of our daycares. 80%, done, gone. So what was the fix for that? Well, it's because they're not making enough money. And so they did a $100 million payroll tax. That isn't the answer. Let's just put it back the way that it was. We do $100 million. We are 97% carbon free with the energy that we use within the state. The legislator has gone to this renewable energy standard where they're trying to get the last 3% of this renewable energy so they could be 100%. It does nothing. The majority's estimate is it's $100 million a year. When you talk to the power companies and everybody else is involved, it's $400 to $500 million a year that's going to be paid through ratepayers' taxes on their electric rate. There's $200 million. We spend $700 million a year on climate change. I get it. I do believe that we got to really do our fair share as far as what we need to do. We are the cleanest state in the nation. We really, really are. Give us back $350 million of that. We're going to give you $350 million of that. Here's a plan, but show us your plan. But give us back $350 million. So we're up to $550 million. I could keep on going on and on and on, but we could easily get to $1 billion. We're $1.9 billion, folks. We're $1.9 billion more than what we ought to be right now. $1.9 billion, and we could just cut that up. You wouldn't even see that pile of stuff that you put there with the $14 billion that we squandered during the COVID dollars. $1.9 billion we could cut out of the part of our budget and put it back in through so that we could promote to Ed and all his friends to come here into Vermont. And we can do a better job. There's a better way with it, and we need to do better.
Just as a statistic on the $1.9 billion, that's $3,000 per person in the state of Vermont, just to be aware. Representative Page.
If you remember the last election, one of the big issues was that we have a spending problem. And being down there, I do not see us cutting many things that should be cut. But since that last election, I think we have more balance in the State House. And some of the bills that we have seen in the past, which raises raises all of our taxes. I think that we now, with the balance, the governor is able to veto bills that, whereas before he could not veto those bills and have them sustained. So I think the best part of the election last time was just having more balance there on both sides, and and I hope that continues into the next election, because there are some, you know, crazy ideas out there, and that cost us money, and I do not see where we're cutting funds. And until Vermont becomes more affordable, Ed, you're probably going to see more individuals exit from this area. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is.
So we have 2 minutes left if anyone has a very, very brief question. Okay.
Jerry Cahill from Barton. I was just wondering, I'm reading the papers a lot, and I'm hearing a lot on the street about insurance. So I'm just wondering if there's any chatter at the House about universal health care for Vermont. It's just, I'm like, we're asking for more, but we want to pay less. But our people are suffering because of health insurance.
Thank you for the question, Senator Ingalls.
Thank you, Jerry. Great question. Universal health care is the most expensive health care in the world, so that isn't the answer. The Green Mountain Care Board was developed way back when single payer was going to be, and then single payer was actually given up because it was too expensive, which is universal health care. But the Green Mountain Care Board is still there, which has done everything that it can do to drive it to single payer or universal health care. We have one insurance company left in the state, one insurance company. We used to have 9. We have one insurance company. They have been, you've heard this term, they are now too big to fail. Too big to fail. And so they are basically more regulated than they want to be, but all they got to do is say they're going to leave the state, and then that all stops. So we need to find a way to, we need to bring in more competition. We need more insurance companies. Again, it goes back to regulation. Quit regulating. And I said one thing to the Green Mountain Care Board the other day. There's a thing in Montpelier that seems to happen when you pass a bill that you got to ride it all the way to China and then turn around and dig it all the way back. Once in a while, there is just a bad idea that you just got to stop and change direction. And that's what's going on with the health care in the last 21 years in the state of Vermont. We've got to do something different. Jerry, you are so positively right. Teachers' pensions right now, I think they just went up 12.9% as far as what we got to do to fund teachers' retirements. Health care. It's too much. We've got to turn it around, and thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Okay. Well, then, thank you. Then this concludes our legislative breakfast for today. I'd like to thank all the legislators for coming and attending and answering the questions. I'd like to thank all of you for attending and asking such excellent questions. I'd like to especially thank Passumpsic Bank for sponsoring this, for the food. Let's give them a round of applause. I'd also like to thank the Eastside for the wonderful food. It was an excellent breakfast. I'd also like to thank NEK-TV and members of the media who've come here to report on it. And I'd like to let you know that the next legislative breakfast will be March 16th. Monday, March 16th is probably going to be sponsored by Fred's Energy. They did it last year. And I'd like to invite you all to that. And I am willing to go out on a limb and say it will probably be warmer than today. So, again, thank you all for coming and have a wonderful day. Thank you.